Hey guys, Tori here from Overlook Horizon. Happy holidays, everybody. We're here and ready for another launch day here. The last SpaceX launch for 2020. This is a National Reconnaissance Office launch. Super top secret payload. And I think we're going to have some fun here today. We'll get to see it. I'm expecting maybe a short broadcast today because it's top secret. I don't expect to actually see deployment. But we'll find out. We'll see how it goes. So anyways, welcome everybody. Just like I usually do at the beginning, today is December 17th, 2020. It's 9:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the East Coast where I am. Just in case you're watching the replay, I will put timestamps in the description below if you want to skip ahead to all the different parts of the video. But if you're here with us live, well, welcome. Welcome. We're ready to go, and I think we're going to have some fun. So, thanks everybody for joining in. I see everybody's chatting it up already. We got the holiday themes going. We're ready for the holidays. Look at that, Rough Riders show. Thanks for the super chat. It says Merry Christmas. Well, Merry Christmas to you, Rough Riders. Thanks for supporting the channel. Really appreciate it. So, we've got a large launch window here today. We've got, they're actually starting into propellant loading now, which is good news for the actual launch attempt. The weather was not looking so great at Cape Canaveral right now. And actually, I just realized I didn't have my other stream pulled up here, but I'll show you from 321 launch here, which is Florida today. You can see our weather here looking very cloudy. A little bit of snow. Just kidding, that's my snow, just in case you weren't aware. But yeah, very cloudy at Cape Canaveral right now, and that was the main concern this morning as they were getting things ready. So let's see, where is my forecast? We'll pull this up here. We'll go through all the regular stuff that we normally go through, take a look at what's in store for today, and we'll get after it. Right, super cloudy here, says Dana. Nice Christmas vibe, says Anita. Thanks, Anita. Will there still be... Oh, I lost that one. Will there still be a 2-Minute Tuesday next week? Yeah, I'm planning one more 2-Minute Tuesday for the year. So we should still have another 2-Minute Tuesday this coming Tuesday, and then that'll be the end for this year. Let's go. Let me grab a couple others before we jump too far into it. There's 1 foot of snow in New York City. Yeah, we got about like 6 inches here where I am, and some of my family that's just a little bit further south than me, they got 41 inches of snow. What's the metric conversion of that? 41 inches is 104 centimeters of snow. just a little bit south of me in Binghamton, that's about a 2-hour drive. 41 inches, 104 centimeters. That's a lot. That's a lot of snow. We got like 6 inches of snow, which is what is that in centimeters? Let's see. I gotta get my conversion. I'm not 15 centimeters. There you go. I can't do metric that fast off the top of my head. So, all right, let's get everybody commenting about Binghamton getting 41 inches of snow. I know, right? That's a lot of snow. Like, I don't even know how to manage. I think I would just stay inside. I think I'd just be like, you know what? There's nothing out there for me today. I do like the snow, but it's like trying to clean up the driveway and like, snow blow the driveway and the sidewalks and everything, all that kind of stuff like that. Just, I could do without that. All right, let's dive into it and see what we have in store for today, shall we? So this is what we're launching today. It's an NROL-108. So they basically just number their launches here. NROL is a National Reconnaissance Office launch. This is a super top secret payload. What is the payload? Have no idea. We're not gonna know. They're probably not even gonna show it to us. So we have no idea what this payload is. It's from the National Reconnaissance Office, so it's a spy satellite of some sort. And that's why they're not gonna tell us about it. Super top secret spy satellite. They're not telling us anything about what's on board today, other than it's a satellite. Cool story. One thing that we can kind of deduce from this whole thing is that it is on the lighter side, and we know that because today is an RTLS landing. RTLS meaning return to launch site. So an RTLS landing gotta be a relatively light payload in order to do RTLS. So we know it's a relatively light payload. It's not one of those big giant payloads that weighs a bajillion pounds. It's gonna be a relatively light payload so that they can do the RTLS landing. So that's about all we know. Don't expect today. They're probably not going to show us fairing deployment, at least not the upwards facing camera that faces up at the payload, because they're not going to want us to see the payload. So we won't see that. We're probably not going to see payload deployment. So they'll probably end the broadcast right after the first stage booster lands, hopefully, and they'll probably just end it right there. And they'll be like, "Yep, have a good rest of the year." So yeah, I don't expect to see a lot in that regard. Hey, Katie B, thanks for the super chat. Katie says, joining in on time for once. Thanks for being here, Katie. From Southeast Australia, 1:15 in the morning. Wow, that's early. That's dedication. Thanks, Katie. Thanks for bringing so much fun to the world of science. Enjoy this much-deserved treat. Side note, you're talking about snow. I'm in Aussie summer, sweltering, right? I could use a little bit of that. I'm kind of cold right now, to be perfectly honest, but yeah, I do like the snow. I like the snow. I'm all right with snow. It's just, it depends on how long it sticks around, right? I like the snow when it first comes. I'm like, oh, look at this, we got snow. It's so exciting. And then by like, you catch me in February, I'm like, get rid of the snow. Somebody make it go away. So, depends on how long it's been around. But thanks, Katie. Appreciate the super chat. All right, so I had talked about this being a RTLS landing. So for those that are not familiar, this is not something we see very often. So here's our view, courtesy of my friend Declan over at Flight Club, showing us what an RTLS landing looks like. There's going to be something like this. So all the red sections are powered flight. The gray sections are coast phases. So we're going to have our launch, which is at the big launch pad today, 39A, way up here to the north. That's where Apollo launched. That's where Space Shuttle launched from. Big launch pad over at Kennedy Space Center property. You've got the other big one up here is 39B. That's where NASA's giant SLS rocket will launch someday. The next one down here is 41, and this is pad 40, which is another SpaceX pad. They can launch Falcon 9 from there. 39A, mention it every time, but 39A is the only pad capable of launching Crew Dragon, Falcon Heavy. They all have to launch from 39A. There's no facilities to launch it at pad 40. So, big launch pad today. Gonna take off here under powered flight, obviously. We'll get cut off right here in separation of the first stage. Second stage, gonna continue on into orbit. First stage, gonna do a boost back burn. We don't see this very often. They're few and far between, but we've seen it before. Boost back burn, so it can head back to the launch site. Now, when it does that boost back burn, it's still gonna climb. because it's still ascending. A lot of speed there. No need to really scrub off that vertical speed. You can just scrub off the horizontal, start heading back to the launch site, let it continue to climb. So for the most part, it's just going to head back sideways, continue to climb. We'll get cut off. We'll do this little loop. We'll come back. We'll get an entry burn right here, slow it down so it doesn't break up in the atmosphere as it comes back. And we'll get our landing burn and a nice little touchdown right here at LZ1, landing zone 1, which is a little bit to the south of where the actual launch pad is up here. So we get a nice little landing at LZ1, which also means usually we get good footage of this because we don't have to worry about the drone ship shaking around and moving and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully we get good video footage today to wrap up the year. So that's what's happening. And then our trajectory here today is heading out to the northeast here. Whether it will stay in that trajectory after deployment, we don't really know. You can be sure that there are going to be a lot of countries tracking this payload here. And this is our second stage. This is our second stage deorbit area. It's gonna deorbit coming in right here, but yeah, that's the orbit that it's gonna be dropped off in. The spacecraft could certainly change its orbit once it gets up there. We don't know. There's probably gonna be a lot of people tracking that though, because it is a spy satellite of some sort. So let's jump in. We'll go look at our, since we talked about hazards for just a minute, we'll look at our hazard zones here. No drone ship out at sea, but we do have 2 fairing recovery ships out there. One of them is Go Miss Tree, which is the one with the big net on the back, so they'll try to catch that in the nets. I'm assuming they're going to try for 1 catch today. The other half of the payload fairing, they didn't bring the other catch ship out there, but they did bring a recovery ship, Go Searcher, so that'll try to pluck it out of the water after it soft lands in the water. So those are stationed out here for fairing recovery. No drone ship, obviously, because we're not landing on a drone ship. We're landing back at the launch site over, or actually down here. Down here's the landing site. They call it RTLS. It's not, it doesn't land at the actual launch site, but it's close enough, okay? So they launch from here, and they're gonna land that first stage booster back down there. And then we took a look at the second stage re-entry area here. This is, it's gonna deorbit. Yep, this is where it's gonna deorbit and break up in the atmosphere. And based on that positioning, that's gonna deorbit on. It's gonna deorbit. Right, that's gonna deorbit on the first orbit. So pretty much, so it's not going to be a long coast phase for satellite deployment. We don't know when satellite deployment is going to be, but it's going to deorbit on the first orbit there. It's going to deorbit. Right, exactly. All right, and then the last thing we'll take a look at, because I do see SpaceX is live. Let's take a look at some weather here. 30% chance of violating launch conditions here today. The big concern, liftoff winds, thick cloud layer. Clouds was really kind of the big concern we've been looking at all morning here today, but also liftoff winds, a little bit of a concern as well. And to just wrap that up, we'll take a look at what the actual weather is here. So this is, oh, I should refresh this. I pull this up early, but then I need to make sure I refresh it so that we have the latest information here. Am I on the? I'm not even on the right date. This is Wednesday. Let's go to here, and we want. What time are we going? Like 10 o'clock in the morning here. So here's our liftoff surface level wind conditions here, about 10 miles per hour, which is not too bad. That's okay right now. I think we'll be all right for ground level winds. Our upper level winds. What was the upper level wind risk? Moderate was the upper level wind risk, which you can see right here. This is from the 45th Space Wing, the weather squadron that puts out these pre-launch forecasts. So you can see here's our upper level winds, which are, they're quick today, 115 miles per hour. Now we can launch in those conditions. A couple things that you have to be concerned about with upper level winds is, one, direction of travel. This is a good direction for upper level winds because it's almost the same direction that the rocket is going to be going into. Then you also have to be concerned with how quickly they go up. So you're at 57 miles per hour and at 5,500 meters down to 35 miles per hour. So this looks, to me, it looks like upper level winds are not a huge concern today because it does go up high, but it's a constant gradual increase all the way up to that high speed upper level winds. That's good news for wind shear, because if you have that constant gradual increase, you should be okay. But yeah, obviously the clouds is going to be the main concern, I think, for today. So we got some thick clouds in the area. That's what we're looking at here. at in Florida, and it's that's gonna be what we have. So we're gonna have to figure out what's happening there and whether or not the winds or the clouds are gonna cooperate today. And I think that covers everything. A couple other little tidbits here that I'll mention before we get to some questions and comments. But this will be the 26th launch for SpaceX, which is a crazy high number. I think that's the highest they've ever done in a single year. Is that correct? I think that's the case. But the fifth flight of this particular booster. This is the first national security payload that's flying on a reused booster. They've always been brand new. This is the first time they're flying a national security payload, which they consider top priority. Like, these must work. These are high priority. They don't want to have anything go wrong. So that means the National Reconnaissance Office really trusts SpaceX with this and trusts their reused booster, because these are top priority, top secret. How many times can I say top payloads? Top secret, top priority payloads. Let's say top a couple more times. And this will be the 103rd Falcon 9 launch as well, which is kind of crazy too. So we're getting up there in numbers, and I think that pretty much covers all our pre-flight stuff. SpaceX is live, but they haven't actually come up on screen yet. So they'll come up here soon. So we'll switch over to that. We do have, just in case you're not familiar with how this works, we got the countdown clock up here, which I made bigger to hopefully people will see it easier, especially if you're new to the stream. Maybe you see the clock now. So we made that bigger. And then these are all the events that are coming up throughout the preparation stages for getting the first stage booster ready. Well, the whole rocket, not just the first stage booster, the whole rocket ready for launch. So look at this. It's going to be perfect timing because SpaceX is now starting things up. They're going to go live here right now. We'll switch over to them in just a minute. I'll read some of your comments after launch. We'll do a lot more questions and comments and things like that. So keep them coming. I'll try to interject if I see any common questions come up or things like that. But I will mention too, we also have, and I got to remember to switch to this, but we've got telemetry information from our friend Declan over at Flight Club. So he's provided us some telemetry information here. So we'll have this as well today so that we can get some augmented telemetry, especially on that first stage when it's coming back for landed. So this is simulated telemetry, not live telemetry, but it'll show you fuel and both stage 1 and stage 2 for telemetry information. So, all right, let's turn up SpaceX. We'll listen in and let's get it going.
Space Center in Florida. My name is Andy Tran, and I'm a production supervisor here at SpaceX. Today's launch, NROL-108, is for the National Reconnaissance Office, or NRO. The NRO is an intelligence community element and Department of Defense organization responsible for developing, acquiring, launching, and operating America's reconnaissance satellites, as well as operating associated data processing facilities in support of national security. These sophisticated systems are used to develop military targeting data, support international humanitarian relief operations, and assess the impact of natural disasters. This will be our second launch with NRO. The first was in 2017, and that launch actually launched from the same exact launch pad as today's mission. This will also be our 9th mission for our national security customers to date. One thing to note for today's mission, per the NRO's request, we will not be sharing any views of the second stage today, and we'll be ending our webcast a little early around the T+8 minute mark just after Falcon 9 touches back down onto land.
Yeah, that was pretty much expected.
If for some reason we are not able to launch today, we do have a backup window tomorrow at the same time. So far, we are at T-12 minutes and 48 seconds and counting. All systems are looking good for an on-time liftoff. So let's take a closer look at the payload and the vehicle today.
Holy smokes, my clock is right on, and I didn't even update it. That's never happened before.
What you're seeing is a view from Florida, specifically of Launch Pad 39A, with Falcon 9 getting ready for launch. Our rocket stands at 230 feet, or 70 meters tall, and that's greater than the wingspan of a 747 aircraft. Falcon 9 has 2 stages and also uses 2 types of propellants, which we'll talk more about later on in the webcast. The bottom 2/3 of the vehicle is the first stage. It's designed to be reflown 10 or more times with minimal refurbishment in between flights. One way to spot a flight-proven booster is to look for that re-entry soot on the first stage. Today's flight will be the 5th flight for this particular first stage. Its first 2 flights supported the CRS 19 and 20 missions to the International Space Station. It flew again in June for our 9th Starlink mission, and most recently in August for the SAOCOM 1B mission. At the very bottom of the first stage, there are 9 Merlin engines that will get Falcon 9 off the ground and up to the thinner parts of the Earth's atmosphere. The 2 stages will then separate from one another. The second stage continues to orbit while the first stage makes its way back down to Earth for its landing attempt at landing zone 1, which is actually not too far off from where it will lift off. There it is on screen. If successful, this will be the 5th landing for the booster on today's mission. It will also mark the 70th successful recovery of a Falcon 9 first stage. As for the second stage, that's what you see on screen. It will ignite its single Merlin vacuum or MVAC engine about 2.5 minutes into flight. It's this engine that will take the NROL-108 spacecraft to its intended orbit. And speaking of the satellite, it's currently safely enclosed inside the 17-foot diameter payload fairing, which is that structure at the very top of the rocket and what you see on screen right now. This protects the satellites from aerodynamic heating, loads, and contamination during ascent. Once we reach the vacuum of space, we will jettison the fairing halves while the second stage continues to orbit.
But we're not going to see it.
Both of the fairing halves today will be brand new. We'll also be attempting to recover them from water today using our recovery ships Miss Tree and Go Searcher.
Oh, it looks like no catch. That's not the big net, right? That's the little net.
One thing to notice is some unique artwork on the fairing. This was chosen by the NRO because gorillas are peaceful animals, but can be fierce when necessary, acting quickly to defend themselves and warn others at any sign of a threat. And like the gorilla, this mission is constantly vigilant and ready to defend its own, demonstrating the NRO's commitment to protecting the United States' warfighters, interests, and alliances. And finally, the large truss structure next to Falcon 9 is called the Transporter Erector, also known as the TE. Its job is to roll Falcon 9 out to the launch pad, raise it to a vertical launch position, and also route power, fluids, and communication to both the rocket and the satellite.
Hoping we get good pad mics today. The last couple launches not been super great for pad mics.
We are about 9 minutes and 20 seconds from liftoff. All conditions continue to be green. Falcon 9 rolled out onto the pad Wednesday morning and went vertical around 3 p.m. Eastern. More recently, the SpaceX launch director held the go, no-go poll for propellant load and launch at the T-minus 38-minute mark. We're currently working no issues on the Falcon 9 launch vehicle. Again, if we do have a hold to today's launch, we actually do have a 2-hour and 15-minute window that could allow us to reload the ultra-cold liquid oxygen and make another launch attempt today, but this presumes that we understand whatever caused us to hold the count and can safely proceed with a recycle and launch. If we can't launch today, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow at the same time. Falcon 9 has also been loading propellants since the T-minus 35-minute mark, when we started loading both fuel and oxidizer into each of the stages. Our fuel is a refined form of kerosene known as rocket propellant 1. We also refer to it as RP1. Fuel is fully loaded on the second stage and will finish loading on the first stage around the T-minus 6-minute mark. As for oxidizer, we use super chilled liquid oxygen. We also refer to it as LOX. Typically, launch providers use LOX right near its boiling point of negative 297 degrees Fahrenheit. Here at SpaceX, we actually chill the liquid oxygen another 40 degrees colder, making it denser and lets us load more into the first and second stages. LOX is currently loading into both the first and second stages at the moment. We load it as late as possible to keep it from warming up and decreasing its performance. We're also finishing up helium loading. As the Merlin engine pumps pull RP1 and LOX out of the tanks, we need to fill this empty volume called the ullage. We use the helium stored in pressure vessels and expand it using heat from the Merlin engine gas generator's exhaust. In about 20 seconds, we'll have engine chilling beginning. This is where we allow a small amount of super chilled liquid oxygen to flow past the turbopump inlets, cooling them down to avoid thermal shocks when we light the Merlin engines at the T-minus 2 second mark. The spacecraft team also transitioned the NROL-108 payload to internal battery power around the T-minus 8 minute mark. We're currently working no issues, and so no further actions are required before launch. As for the range, they are standing by to support today's mission and are currently green. For weather, it's cloudy on the East Coast, but we're still 70% favorable for an on-time liftoff today. That said, all systems continue to be go for an on-time liftoff of 9:45 a.m. Eastern Time.
That's going to be... Clouds are going to be the big concern today. We got to keep an eye on those. Can't launch through thick cumulus clouds. We can launch through some clouds.
As I mentioned earlier, the National Reconnaissance Office, or NRO, is a joint Department of Defense intelligence community organization responsible for developing, launching, and operating America's signals, imagery, and communication satellites. Here's a closer look at the NRO and its capabilities.
RP1 load is complete and closing out.
All right, they're going to play some music here, so we'll turn that down. We'll let this play here in the background so you can see what's happening, and we'll get to a couple things. He did mention the 70% go. That sounds like he's just reading off the actual the pre-launch forecast, the L-1 forecast, which is the day before forecast. I don't think that's an updated forecast as of right now. So we don't really know what their percent go is at this moment, like based on the new conditions. But yeah, clouds are going to be the main concern. They may run it down all the way to 30 seconds and decide right at that point. That's usually the last weather gate. Now, it is a long launch window today, so they would potentially have time to recycle if they hold the count, if it's for clouds. If there's a problem with the vehicle, that's a whole nother story. But if it's for clouds, we might be okay to try again today. Tori, are you cold? It's snowing. Yeah, I am cold. All this snow here in the studio. All right, looks like there was a short video here. I'm gonna try not to talk too much over their stuff. We'll take a lot of the questions will be after launch. I did want to mention I saw that Katie B and Jeff. Oh man, Jeff, I'm gonna try this. Le Hirondelle. I'm probably butchering that, but they both became members of the channel. So thanks, guys, for your support. Really appreciate that. And I tried my best, Jeff. I'm sorry. Katie B was much easier. All right. Everybody likes a coffee mug, my rocket fuel coffee mug. I like that one. Let's see. Nice. Right. The first time was right. Oh, how about that? All right. Thanks. All right. That was surprising. Usually terrible with names. Why is this top secret? This is for the National Reconnaissance Office. So essentially it's a spy satellite. They don't want other countries to know what it is. So there'll generally be like some general purpose observation that a lot of times they'll say with these National Reconnaissance Office, they'll be like, to provide Earth observations for things like natural disasters and things like that. But there's a reason why they don't want you to see what's on board. They're not going to show us the payload. We won't see deployments. We're not going to see the fairing jettison. They're not going to show any views of the payload today. And there's a reason for that, because there's something secretive about it. They don't want us to know. There's always the possibility that the satellite itself could be relatively mundane, but like the build technology, they just don't want to show that to other countries. There could be something crazy on board that they don't want us to see either. So we just don't know. We have no idea. So, oh hey, I see Declan from Flight Club is here in the chat. Hey Declan, we got his stuff ready to go today. As I had mentioned, Declan is the magician behind FlightClub.io, and we'll have his augmented telemetry up here and ready to go for launch, which is always awesome to see, because SpaceX usually provides stage 2 telemetry. We never see stage 1 from them, and we also don't get an idea of how much fuel is left, which is always awesome to see. So thanks, Declan, for that. And thanks for joining us this morning. Everybody go give Flight Club.io a follow on... he's also putting out YouTube videos as well. He put out a nice explanation on how he calculated the Starship SN8 telemetry and how he's updated it post-flight. Pretty cool stuff. Check out his YouTube channel. And also, you got to follow him on Twitter as well. So... all right, there's my spiel, and let's get back to SpaceX.
Final stages of the countdown. The vehicle remains in good health. About 2 minutes ago, the transporter erector began to retract away from Falcon 9, providing clearance for liftoff. In just a few seconds, liquid oxygen loading should finish loading on the second stage, and that'll wrap up propellant loading. At the T-minus 1 minute mark, Falcon 9 will be in startup. This means that the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers are now controlling the launch countdown. The range continues to be green for launch, and the weather still remains cloudy, but again, we are still 70% favorable for an on-time liftoff today. As a reminder, if we don't launch today, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern.
So there's a backup opportunity tomorrow, but there's also a long launch window today. If there's a hold for like weather, we could wait it out. They could try again today. Depends on if the weather's going to cooperate. So we're getting down to it.
And it does look like we have a hold to the launch countdown.
Oh no! Oh, I didn't even notice it.
Let's check in. We're going to check in with the team to see if we can get some more information on that. Give us a second.
Let me update the clock. Come on! Well, we have a hold. We have a hold. This is not too terrible. It's kind of weird that they held it at 2 minutes. I mean, unless they were just like, you know, the clouds are just not having it here. So we have enough time in the launch window to try again. I just said it. So they could try again today. If they do, the problem is they pretty much have to refuel the rockets because the fuel that's inside the Falcon 9 rocket is super, super cold, super densified liquid oxygen, and even the rocket grade kerosene is chilled a little bit as well, but it's super cold. And the way that the Falcon 9 gets its performance is with that super cold, super dense fuel, so they can pack more oxygen into the vehicle when they make it super cold. But that also means that once they start fueling the rocket, it starts to warm up a little bit, starts to boil off. That's a lot of the venting you'll see on the rocket. Most of the smoke you're seeing now is actually condensation, just from the warm air touching the cold outer skin, because it's got that liquid oxygen inside that's super cold, and that makes the skin of the rocket cold, so you get that warm Florida air, touches that cold skin, condenses some of the water in the air. So that's what most of that is. But we do see a lot of venting, and that's as the liquid oxygen heats up and boils off and turns back to gaseous form. It has to be vented out so you don't overpressurize the rocket. But you have to make sure that you have the correct amount of fuel in there. Oh no, there we go. They just reset to T-minus 45. Well, we could have a little... well, that's good news. That's good news. And that's...
Hey, just checking in here. We are waiting for the teams to debrief, and we will report back when we get more information. Again, we had a hold to the countdown at the T-minus 1 minute and 53 second mark. Again, we're just waiting for the team to debrief.
So, it's good news that it's at T-minus 45 minutes. But that's also like part of just procedure, is like they haven't made a decision that they're going to try again likely at this point, but they are, as part of their procedure, they will reset the clock. So don't count on this as like, yes, it's definitely happening again. Like, this is part of their procedure, reset the clock, and they'll still make a determination. I wouldn't make a determination that they're actually doing it again until you see this clock starting to run. When that clock starts to run, then we know they're trying again. Or obviously if they say something, but... All right, let's get back to a couple of comments here. I saw my buddy TJ Cooney from I Need More Space in the chat. Thanks for hanging out with us, TJ. TJ also has an awesome YouTube channel where he does space content called I Need More Space. You should go subscribe to that channel as well. He makes some pretty awesome stuff, and I hear he has some new videos coming out here soon. Let's see, how often do they launch rockets? Well, SpaceX, well, this is the 26th launch for the year. And so that's basically like once every other week, right? So SpaceX is doing doing quite a bit. And then once you throw in all the other rocket companies like Rocket Lab, which is pretty exciting, Astra Space, which is an exciting up-and-coming rocket company, there's a lot of rockets launching throughout the year, so it's exciting stuff. Have they released a path for orbit, or is that also top secret? We do have a path for orbit. We'll show it right here, courtesy of Declan over at flightclub.io. So here's what's happening today. This is an RTLS landing. Yep, sometimes I'm better than others at manipulating this map. There we go. So RTLS landing, so we're launching, heading a northeast direction. It's gonna do a boost back burn, come back down, we'll get a re-entry burn, slow it down before, so it doesn't burn up and break up in the atmosphere, and then a landing burn at the end. But the second stage, which is really what your question was, is gonna continue in this kind of northeastern direction here.
Hey, this is Andy from SpaceX again. We have reset the clock to T-minus 45 minutes. This doesn't necessarily mean that we will be recycling today, but we do have a launch window all the way until 12 p.m. Eastern. At this moment, we are still trying to understand exactly what happened, and so we're waiting for the team to debrief and gather more information. For now, we'll be sitting tight, and we'll try to update you as we get the information.
That's interesting. So he said that they're still trying to understand what happened, which is not great news. Because if it was weather and it was a manual hold called by somebody that was like, yeah, we're going to hold for weather, that's not something that they really need to understand, because that seems pretty straightforward. So I'm reading into that when he says we're still trying to understand that that's not a weather issue. That's a vehicle issue or ground support equipment issue. That'd be everything on the ground there, you know, pipes and wires and systems that don't fly on the rockets as ground support equipment, or GSE. But it sounds like that weather was not the cause of the hold today. At least that's what I'm reading into what he just said, which is a less cheery picture for another launch attempt, because that means they gotta sort out an issue. That's a little bit harder than, like, let's just wait for the clouds to move. That's a little easier to do. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. We'll have to see if they're gonna do it again. And again, they reset the clock to 45, like he said, like I said. This doesn't indicate that they're trying again. They can try again, but we don't know if they're trying again yet at this point. Wait until that clock starts moving before we decide. Let's see. A couple of people have mentioned, like, why is SpaceX live streaming this if it's a top secret payload? The rocket launch itself is not top secret. It's just the payload, and obviously we can't see the payload, so they can live stream the actual rocket launch. We've seen this rocket launch. There's nothing new about this rocket launch that we haven't seen on any other rocket launch. So, you know, a rocket's going to launch, it's going to take a payload to orbit. None of that's really top secret. I mean, there's, you know, components and stuff in the rocket and procedures that are top secret, you know, or proprietary to SpaceX, but we've seen this a million times. There's no reason why they can't show us the live stream. What they will not show us on the live stream, they're not going to show us the payload. They won't show us fairing jettison, because we would see the payload. They won't show us deployment, because we would see the payload, i.e. the satellite. They're not going to show us any of that. We won't see those camera views today. They'll be very careful about that, because it's a National Reconnaissance Office satellite, top secret, generally regarded as like spy satellites and things like that. Harley says, I blame it on your snow that's falling all over your face. It's spilling over onto the rocket's onboard computer. It doesn't want to launch in the snow, huh? Well, that's a shame. Luckily, the snow's not accumulating. Wouldn't that be interesting if my snow effect was just would slow, the longer I live streamed, it just slowly built up by the end of the live stream. I was just like, okay, see you later. All right, let's see. Yeah, and as Reynold Cherry says you can't really keep a launch secret. Yeah, so the actual launch itself, hard to keep that secret, because there's, you know, a bajillion people that are down in Florida that once they light the candle, they're gonna know there's a launch happening. And you could see which direction it goes. And I mean, you know, countries have satellite and tracking capabilities for all this stuff. It's really like what's on board that's going to be the secret stuff. What it looks like, how it's built, what capabilities it has. That's all the secret stuff that they don't want to show us. So, where's the rocket located? Right now we are on launch pad 39A, Cape Canaveral, Florida, at the Kennedy Space Center property. That's their big launch pad where they launch Falcon Heavy from. They've launched Apollo from there. They launched Space Shuttle from there. So 39A right here, east coast of Florida. It's one of two big giant launch pads there. That's 39A. That's 39B, which will be used for NASA's SLS program someday. But 39A is leased to SpaceX, so that's SpaceX's launch pad where they do Falcon Heavy, Crew Dragon. They can do regular Falcon 9s like this one today, but this is the only pad that can do Falcon Heavy and Crew Dragon. SpaceX does have another pad, which is 40 down here. This one's 41. That's a United Launch Alliance pad. This is Slick 40. This is technically Cape Canaveral Space Force Station property. So I don't know where the property line is, like right here maybe. So up here, this is Kennedy Space Center, but that ends right here. And this is the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station property. All these different launch pads down here, along with the landing pads. This is LZ-1 and LZ-2 for SpaceX. Those are all on the Space Force Station, previously Air Force Station. Just down here, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. So that's where we're launching today. And then, as I'd mentioned before, this is an RTLS. RTLS meaning return to launch site. Now, it doesn't go exactly to the launch site, but it's close enough, okay? It's going to do a boost back burn, turn the first stage booster back around after separation, bring it back down, land it back at the pad, which is always great because we can see, we get good camera views, no shaky drone ship, so usually we get uninterrupted footage when it lands back at the landing pad, or back at the ground-based landing site today. Did the strongback return to the rocket? Yes, it appears that it has. So the strongback is reattached. What do you think the problem is? I couldn't even speculate because they haven't given any sort of indication on what it was. I thought weather at first because that was our big watch item, but it sounds like it's not weather because they said that the teams are trying to understand what happened, which that tells me it's not weather. If it was weather, pretty easy to understand. We got clouds. We can't launch. It's easy to understand. I mean, maybe it still could be weather if they were like, we're trying to understand ... if the clouds are going to clear. Seems like kind of a stretch, but maybe. Hey,
It's looking like we are going to try to recycle today. Now, keep in mind the purpose of the countdown is to help us catch potential issues prior to flight. Overall, the vehicle and payload appears to be in good health. The new T0 is still to be determined, but we do have a launch window that ends at 12 p.m. Eastern Time.
All right. So we've got, so it sounds like they are going to recycle, but we don't know the time yet. So we'll see. Maybe I would expect we're at least probably 45 minutes away, but it's probably gonna be like an hour. That's my guess. We'll see. Let's see. We're just looking to see if anybody had any secret insight on my notifications. Don't see any secret insights. So it sounds like we're all just gonna watch and find out together. Yeah, nothing that I see that would give us any more information than we already have, so. All right, well, we'll just press on until we know. Had to wait for the Space Marines to catch the ULA sniper. Let's see, the thing. Let's see what else we got for comments. Weather is the it does not sound like weather is the problem. We thought that at first, because that was the big watch item. But it does not sound like weather is the problem today. Sounds like they had some sort of issue. Could have been a sensor reading, could have been, you know, fuel pressure. Who knows? We have no idea what it is, but let's see. Somebody asked about when's the next Falcon Heavy. I think it's is it scheduled for like? Well, here, let me look up before I tell you when it's scheduled for. It's next year, but I feel like I got that. I feel like it got pushed to later than I thought it was.
The team is still trying to determine if we are going to recycle today and attempt another launch attempt. Again, keep in mind that the purpose of the countdown is to help us catch these types of issues.
You told us they were
going
to recycle.
Overall, again, the vehicle and payload appear to be in good health. T0 is not yet determined, but again, we do have a launch window that ends at 12 p.m. Eastern Time.
Well, that sounds less promising. You told us that they were going to try again, and now he just said teams are waiting to see if they're going to try again. Which is it? Are they trying again or are they not trying again? The people want to know. Well, that was less promising. Now I'm concerned again. Everything's secret because of the aliens. That's probably it. That's probably actually really what it comes down to. Usually it's secret because of Space Lobster.
Space Lobster ate the T-10. That's the answer.
Right, Space Lobster. They don't want Space Lobster to eat up that T-10.
Space Lobster ate the T-10. That's the answer.
Why don't the fairings burn up upon re-entry? There's a couple reasons for that. I mean, one, they're not traveling quite that fast yet because they get jettisoned pretty early on in the process. They also have like a super large surface area. Like if you're re-entering the atmosphere, this is one of the reasons why Starship does that big belly flop. They're trying to expose as much surface area as possible to slow itself down. Where you can really get a lot of heating and things like that is if you have sharp curves or small density items that come back through the atmosphere there's not a large surface area that can experience heating very quickly. So spreading that out over a large surface area allows you to not get as much heating on that. They're not very dense, so they can kind of slow down a little bit easier than, you know, like a super dense first stage booster would or something like that. So KDB, hey, thanks for the super chat. Says I'll stay awake for the new tentative launch time. That's right. Katie's in Australia. It's like what is it, like 2 o'clock in the morning for you now, Katie? It's gonna be a late one for you. Thanks for staying with us. Let's see. To what flight level are they going to? I don't know if we have orbit information. So I have, and maybe, I don't know if Declan's still in the chat. Maybe he can give us some information, give us some insight into this, because I don't know where he gets this.
If you're just joining us, we did have a hold at T-minus 1 minute and 53 seconds. We reset the countdown to T-minus 45 minutes. At this point, the vehicle and payload both appear to be in good health. We are waiting on a decision on whether or not we will be making another recycle attempt and launch today. Our window ends at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. If we don't launch today, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow at the same time.
All right, so he's just giving us periodic updates, but I don't know if Declan from Flight Club is still in the chat. Maybe he can tell us about where he gets this information, because as far as I'm concerned, it's magic what he does. So Declan from flightclub.io comes up with, I mean, he simulates and runs all these telemetry, you know, all this stuff right here, and this is all the information that he's come up with after he, you know, opened his spell book and went abracadabra, boom, rocket telemetry. It's magic as far as I'm concerned, but I don't know where he gets some of the information, if it's calculated or what it is. What am I looking for? I was looking for altitude. So you can see, here's the altitude graph right here. So you can see we've got we're it's coming up to about like 190 kilometers in altitude, but it is rising a little bit. So that's the altitude that Flight Club says that it's at. I don't know. Do we officially have? I think he had mentioned it actually somewhere in the telemetry here. So he's got the inclination listed at 52.66 inclination. The orbit at 167.6 by 567.29 kilometers. That's a elliptical orbit there. 167 by 567. 567 would be your apogee, or your furthest point away from Earth. 167 would be your perigee, or your closest approach to Earth. So that's an elongated oval orbit there, an eccentric orbit. And then 52-degree inclination, meaning that that's the highest point of latitude that it will hit at north, and also the lowest latitude south that it will go. So it hit 52 degrees, then come back down, and then 52 degrees south, and then, you know, it does this kind of sine wave across the planet. Just because the planet's spin, it's really going straight, but the planet is spinning underneath it. It's tilted. It's not, you know, direct. We can just show it here. Instead of me trying to do hand gestures. So it looks something like this, and as it goes up here, you know, it's making a straight line, but it's never going to hit the poles because it's at this 52-degree inclination. So it goes straight, then it comes back down, comes to the south, it's 52 south, continues on straight like this. So it looks something like that. So there's that. But yeah, let's go back to our 2D telemetry here. You can get an idea, and go to flightclub.io if you want to look through any of this stuff or poke around or actually see this stuff yourself. I mean, he really puts a ton of work into this, and it's absolutely fantastic. There is like more information than you could ever imagine here. You know, all kinds, like throttle positions, how much thrust is being generated, how much propellant, what the propellant mass is. A lot of that we're going to see, hopefully if it launches today, we'll see on our augmented telemetry. But basically all this information comes from this information. So we get this simulated telemetry from all this information that Declan over at Flight Club puts together. So that was the very, very long version of answering your question.
Hey, just another quick update from myself. The team is still trying to determine whether or not we'll be able to recycle today. The vehicle and payload are in good condition. We're still trying to figure out the next T0. We do have until 12 p.m. Eastern time today, but and fingers crossed that we can recycle today and launch. If not, we do have a good shot tomorrow to send this NROL-108 satellite into orbit.
A couple people have asked what happens to the fuel. A lot of the fuel they can recover. So they can drain some of the fuel, recover some of the fuel. Obviously, with something like liquid oxygen, when it turns back into gaseous form, they don't recondense that. It usually gets vented out. I'm not aware of any sort of recondenser that's on site for the liquid oxygen. Maybe they have it, but obviously there's a bunch that's vented off, so they don't see any of that. But yeah, the liquid oxygen, the stuff that's vented off, that they can't recover, but they can recover some fuel. What was the name of the website you just showed? It's flightclub.io. And I would say, we'll take just a brief minute to give you my advertising pitch here while we're all just hanging out waiting to see what's going to happen. But if you want to chat about this kind of stuff in between launches, especially since this is the last SpaceX launch of 2020, we won't be back together again until January, consider joining our Discord. It's free. There's no cost. Jump into our Discord. You can chat it up, learn about space, talk about all kinds of other cool stuff like 3D printing and Raspberry Pis and Arduinos and weather balloons, and we got all kinds of topics in there. So consider joining our Discord. It's free. And if you want to take that extra step and maybe support the channel with more direct support, you can consider becoming a Patreon member or a YouTube channel member. It all goes back into the channel, helps me make better broadcasts and do cooler things, helps me pay for stuff like the Flight Club telemetry, because this is not free. We pay Declan for this. So your support here at the channel ends up going to Declan to pay for stuff like this, because it's pretty awesome. And so that's how I pay for stuff like this, is with your support. So if you want to consider becoming a channel member, that's always cool too. You don't have to, but you do get some exclusive behind the scenes stuff. We do some special live streams every once in a while. We'll probably do another special live stream maybe over the holidays with Patreon and YouTube channel members. So consider that if you want. But if not, just hang out with us and chat and watch. That's cool too. That's always support. I mean, you could do little things like click the like button and stuff like that. That supports the channel too. Doesn't cost anything. So, all right, there's my sales pitch. That's enough of that. We'll go back to this view so we can watch the rocket. Everybody wants to see the rocket. Nobody wants to see me. Let's see. This is Lobster Fest. I'm not sure why this is Lobster Fest, but I can.
Lobster Fest is on.
We can say the Lobster Fest is on.
Lobster Fest is on.
So. Let's see. So we don't know when they're going to try again yet. We're at a hold. We have no updated launch time at this point. We're still waiting for confirmation from SpaceX about when their next launch attempt is going to be. I've seen there's some people throwing out launch numbers and things like that. We're going to go off of this clock because this is directly fed. This clock here, this is directly fed from the actual on-site countdown clock. So if you see other countdown clocks out there, most of them are probably not. They're probably estimates. We're going to go with this one. This is the real countdown clock from SpaceX. What's the plan if they aren't able to launch today? The next attempt will be tomorrow. What's the plan if tomorrow they'll launch another day, but we don't know what the next launch day would be if tomorrow is also scrubbed or postponed. Hey, Mike, thanks for the super chat or super sticker, I guess that is. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. I don't know what that little character is, but all right. Thanks for that. Thanks, Mike.
If you're just joining us, this is the NROL-108 mission. We did have a hold to the countdown at the T-minus 1 minute and 53-second mark. At this moment, the team is trying to figure out if we can recycle and make another launch attempt in today's window. The window today ends around 12 p.m. at 12 p.m. Eastern time. If we can't recycle today, we do have a backup launch opportunity tomorrow. At this point, the vehicle and the payload are in good health, and I'll be giving you periodic updates. We should have more information in about 20 minutes, so I'll keep you guys updated, so stay tuned.
All right, so there's that. We do have some more information about the actual abort itself, which is SpaceX put out a tweet that said the Falcon 9 auto abort called at 1 minute and 53 seconds due to a second stage sensor reading. Wow, holy venting. So they're doing a lot of venting right now. But so it looks like it was an auto abort called at 1 minute 53 seconds due to a second stage sensor reading. Today's launch window closes at 12 p.m. So this was an auto abort. Not a manual abort, so we had originally speculated that maybe it was weather related. That is not the case. It was due to a second stage sensor reading. So this is a vehicle issue on board the actual rocket, and whether or not they can push past that is going to be a question. We don't know. They're not going to be able to, in 2 hours time, they're not going to be able to replace a sensor. The question is, like, is the sensor bad, or was something going wrong? Like, was the fuel pressure incorrect and they need to refuel the rocket? We're not really sure, but there's something about the second stage, or a sensor on the second stage, caused an auto abort today. That makes a little more sense since they told us that they were still trying to figure out what happened. So you can also see, I think it's interesting, a lot of people have asked about like what happens with the fuel and stuff like that on the rocket. Notice how the condensation on that first stage is getting shorter. So they're offloading the liquid oxygen that's on the rocket itself, so that condensation now is only taking up the bottom portion of the rocket, which is a good indication of how much fuel or how much liquid oxygen rather is in the rocket itself, because that's the upper portion is now warming up, doesn't have as much in there. So as we progress, we'll probably see that drop lower and lower, and then they'll start the whole fueling process, start it over again. Let's see, what's the satellite for exactly? We don't know. We don't know. Kakapa. I'm not sure what to say.
Again, it's Andy from SpaceX. Just giving you guys another update. We are still trying to deliberate if we are going to make a recycle and launch attempt in today's launch window, which ends at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, if we can't launch today, we do have another opportunity tomorrow, which is another good chance to launch the NROL-108 satellite. We'll continue to update you as we get more information, so stay tuned, and we'll update you as soon as we can.
So yeah, just to answer the question on what, and we can take a look. We'll take a look at mission control here too. While they're all. Now remember, this is one thing I will say. This is mission control, not launch control. Launch control is on site at Kennedy Space Center. This is in California, so this is mission control, which generally takes over after launch happens. Launch control is on site, relatively. I'm pretty sure that's where most of those operations are happening, which is probably why you don't see a whole lot of activity here happening quite yet. Anyways, here's our rocket. We'll put the rocket back up. That's what people want to see, the rocket. Let's see. What else did we miss? Oh, somebody asked about the payload. We have no idea. No idea what's on board. It's for the National Reconnaissance Office. They don't tell us. They don't tell us really the purpose. Sometimes they put out like a general purpose, like this will provide Earth observations and imagery. But it's top secret. They're not going to tell us the details of it. They don't even tell us, like, they're not even going to tell us the weight of the payload. So there's all kinds of, a lot of secrets here with this payload. So they're not really going to tell us much. Does it mean that SpaceX isn't prepared well for the launch? No, absolutely not. Quite the opposite, actually. This means that they are well prepared. So I've said this a million times before. Probably the people that watch the channel regularly probably sick of hearing this, but if you're under any sort of impression that the vehicle will work perfectly every single time, you're living in a fantasy world. Like, that's not reality. We build rockets, we build systems. Part of engineering is not only trying to make the rocket work perfectly, but planning that it will not. And so if you don't plan for things like that, that's where you have failures, if you don't plan for what happens when the rocket stops working. So good engineering hopes for perfection, but plans for imperfection. So this means that they are well prepared. If the rocket took off and they didn't detect this issue and it exploded 10 feet in the air, that's not being well prepared. In this case, they were very well prepared. There was an issue. We probably shouldn't launch.
As you can see, we have held the countdown. We held it at the T-minus 1 minute and 53 second mark and reset it to the T-minus 45 minute mark. The vehicle and payload are in good health. The team's right now trying to understand what exactly caused the hold and determine if we can recycle and attempt launch again later today. If we are unable to launch today, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow at the same time. We should have a better update on whether or not we will be able to launch in about 15 to 20 minutes. Until then, I'll be periodically updating you about the vehicle and how we're doing.
All right, so we're just standing by to find out more information, but we'll see. So we'll move on from that other topic. Elaine from Montreal says, I know what it is. It's going to be used to spy on Canada to figure out how we make maple leaf syrup. You've always been jealous of it. I like this theory. This is a spy satellite to figure out how to make better maple syrup, according to Elaine. I like this. I could get on board with that. But we should spend millions and billions of dollars on that. We do need better maple syrup. how's the snowstorm treating you? It gave us, you guys have 36 inches already. I didn't personally get that much snow. It was a little bit further south to me. I'm much further north than like New York City. So down closer to like New York City, or actually Binghamton, which is like a 2-hour drive from me, they got like 41 inches or about 105 centimeters of snow. That's a lot of snow. Where I am, we got like 6 inches, maybe 15 centimeters of snow. So not too bad here. That's I don't know, classic snow. That's doable. Not a big deal. Just have to go shovel it or use the snowblower. Tori, I agree with you, but when this happens so frequently with SpaceX, or why does this happen so frequently with SpaceX? I don't think, if you compare SpaceX scrubs to other rocket companies, this isn't an anomaly. I don't think that opinion is based on statistical or factual evidence. I think that's a feeling. I don't think SpaceX's scrubs are any more than any other rocket company, or scrubs or holds. But you also have to consider SpaceX also launches a lot more rockets than other launch companies. So why is it so frequent? Well, this is the 26th launch of the year. Like, I mean, they launch a lot of rockets, so there's bound to be times when they may have to hold or scrub for whether it's weather or vehicle issues. That's just what happens. Somebody didn't tell him he was on camera.
If you're just joining us for the NROL-108 webcast, the team is still trying to determine if we're going to be able to recycle and attempt to launch again. The vehicle and payload are in good health, so you don't have to worry there. The new T0 is still trying to be determined, but we do have a launch window that ends at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, if we can't launch today, we do have another opportunity tomorrow around the same time. We'll periodically update you as information becomes available. Hang tight, and the vehicle is definitely in good health, and payload is also in good health.
All right, so I see another update from Elon Musk. He said that the pressure is slightly high in the upper stage liquid oxygen tank. Review is underway. So looks like they got a high pressure. So that sensor reading that they were talking about on the stage 2 was in the liquid oxygen. It was a liquid oxygen pressure sensor reading that caused the auto abort. So the liquid oxygen tank had slightly high pressure, which would be it's a problem. So that could be a couple things. It could be a bad sensor. It could be that maybe the fuel was warming up at an unusual rate for some reason, like something was causing the liquid oxygen to heat up faster than they were expecting it, which that could potentially be an easy fix. Like, all right, let's just drain the rocket, let's start over again. Could also mean that there's a bad vent port or something like that. They're not venting it off as fast as they're expecting it to. So there's a bunch of things that could cause that high pressure sensor reading on the stage 2, but that's what caused the auto abort. High pressure in the stage 2 liquid oxygen, or LOX, tank. What if the fairing just fell off? People would see it? Yeah, I don't know. Well, what if... That's a weird what if. What if a bear ran across the screen? It's just not going to happen. The payload fairings don't fall off. They use the funny Italian saying they always say, well, what if my grandmother had wheels? If my grandmother had wheels, she would have been a bike. It's a weird, what if to say. What's the guy's name that said that on national TV? There's a famous chef from Italy that said that on UK national TV. Gino something. Can't remember his last name. If my grandmother had wheels, she would have been a bike. It's my favorite quote ever. It basically meaning what? It's a weird what if.
We have held the countdown for the NROL-108 mission. The team is right now trying to determine if we can recycle and relaunch today. We haven't determined a new T0 yet, but both the vehicle and payload are healthy. If we can't launch today, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow. We should have more information in the next 15 or 20 minutes, and we'll try to update you as soon as we can.
What's the dark streaking just before the upper stage? Yeah, that's basically the fuel frost line, Bill. So the dark part is actually what the booster looks like, because this is a reused booster. So the dark section that's closer to the interstage, that's what the booster actually looks like. The lower section that's all pure white, that's actually not the booster we're seeing. That's the frost and the ice buildup on the outside of the booster that's making it look pure white, because the booster is actually very sooty from being previously flown 4 other times. Why is the launch window only open until 12 p.m.? So launch windows are determined in order to get a spacecraft into a certain orbit. So this, most satellites, almost every satellite that's bigger than a toaster or something like that, have their own onboard propellant and thruster systems, so they have some tolerance to get themselves, correct their orbits. Each satellite provider will specify a certain amount of tolerance that they have to correct their orbit or reposition or things like that. So a lot of times they would plan after launch to put it into its final orbit anyways, and as part of that they can do course corrections or things like that, but they also don't want to use up all the satellite's onboard fuel, because then they wouldn't have it reserved for other operations that they might want. So it's basically determined by the Falcon 9's performance. Like they can reprogram Falcon 9 to kind of adjust its orbital path, usually not by a ton, but wow, there's a loud vent. But most of it is going to be based on the spacecraft itself and how much orbital correction it can do. Did we find out why it was held? I missed the hold. Yes, so second stage liquid oxygen pressure sensor recorded a high pressure in the second stage liquid oxygen tank. So that's what we're waiting on. We've not determined whether they're going to try again. They do have time. They've got until 12 o'clock. So they probably only need, you can see that the first stage booster is getting pretty low on liquid oxygen. Like that condensation is getting pretty skinny, meaning most of it's actually out of there. Once it's all out, it takes them about 45 minutes to refuel the rocket and start over again. So they got time to try again, because we have like an hour and a half to go. So as long as they restart the count sometime in the next 45 minutes, they'll be okay to try again. But they have to determine why they got that high pressure sensor reading in the second stage liquid oxygen tank. We don't know the answer to that yet. When do you think they'll go again? Well, it sounds like in the next 5 minutes or so, they were going to give us an update on whether or not they were going to try again today. But really, they can just sit here in limbo for another 45 minutes and do nothing. So they have lots of time to decide. Are we going to see them dismantle some part of the satellite? No, we won't see that. In order to do any work on the rocket, they have to bring the rocket horizontal again. They have to take it down to do any work on it, bring it back up. So any of the stuff that they're going to try to do to mitigate this issue would be all remote mitigation efforts. They're not going to, they might have to take the rocket down and do something, but if they do that, we're not going to see it, because they would scrub the launch for today. They would take it down and work on it throughout the rest of the day today. Here, we'll turn up the music a little bit, since we got nothing happening right now. What's going on late to the party? Yeah, so for anybody that's a bit late here, we had a hold call, an auto abort at 1 minute and 53 seconds remaining in the countdown clock. It was an auto abort, not a manual abort. We thought at first that it was weather, but it is not weather that caused the abort. This was an auto abort due to a high pressure reading inside the second stage liquid oxygen tank. So they've drained a lot of the fuel out of the rocket. You can see there's only a tiny bit of condensation coming from the first stage booster now. As a human person on the opposite side of the world, rocket launches have ruined my sleep schedule. I know, you and me both. You have snow. I do have snow. It's holiday time. We're getting ready for the holidays. Let's see. Is it just a satellite inside, or are there humans? No, this is a satellite. No humans on board today. This is a satellite for the National Reconnaissance Office, which essentially means it's a top secret, likely spy satellite of some sort. They're not going to tell us anything about it. We don't really know what's... we don't know a ton of information. They did play a little clip, which I couldn't listen to because they had the music up, so they might have given us a little bit of information, but a lot of time they keep a lot of stuff secret. They're not going to show us the payload. We won't get to see what it looks like. So there's a lot of secret stuff about this. What was that loud thing? You're probably talking about the venting that's coming from the rocket. So there are microphones at the launch pad, and so we get to hear a lot of the venting sounds that are going on and happening. So this is just sounds of venting, usually liquid oxygen venting, as it warms up, boils up, returns back to gaseous form. How many times can a booster be reused? So in theory, it can be reused up to 10 times before it needs major refurbishment, and it's supposed to be able to accommodate 10 major refurbishments. So that would give a booster a potential lifespan of about 100 launches. We're nowhere close to that. I think the most we've done is what, 7 flights now? So we haven't even hit 10 yet. Top secret that we aren't sure that there are any humans on board. There's no humans on board because they would. The satellite fairing has been encased and has been, I mean, you can see the satellite there, and it's been encased in that payload fairing for days now, where anybody can see and watch. Like, unless they trapped a human in there for days, there's no humans on board. Has SpaceX ever recycled a launch after holding, or am I right thinking they haven't? Yeah, they have. They've done that plenty of times. It's not frequent because there's a lot of, I would say a majority of their launches are instantaneous launch windows, or launch windows that are so small that they essentially become instantaneous once they start fueling the rocket. So even like a Starlink launch has a 20-minute launch window, but it takes them, it takes a while to recycle the count, and the 20-minute launch window means that if they have to call a hold, once they start fueling the rocket, if they have to call a hold, there's not enough time to recycle and stay within the 20-minute window. So it essentially becomes instantaneous at that point once they start fueling the rocket. So but they have recycled before, many times in the past. They're few and far between, but they have done it. I wouldn't be surprised if they do it today. So the question really is, because it's a vehicle issue and not a weather issue, it makes it less likely that they will recycle. But it is possible. Depends on how fast they can sort it out. And they're not going to try to rush things. It's always safer to be like, you know what? We're not 100% sure. We'll just wait. We'll take the rest of the day, check it out. We'll make sure that what we think is the problem is actually the problem. Always safer to do it that way than it is to try to rush through it and say like, oh, wow, the people are watching the live stream. Let's launch it. No, they're not going to do that. They don't care about us. They don't care that we're watching and waiting. They're just on their end saying, listen, keep waiting. We'll launch it when we're ready to launch it. They don't care that we're waiting. Let's see. Bring out Director Tory. Director Tory, he got a very stern look over here. He's watching on. You're happy? We're okay right now? He's good. Everybody's okay. So far, so good. Primarily because we're not trying to do this in 2 minutes. Why don't they use Falcon Heavy? They don't need to. This is actually... the only thing that we can kind of deduce from this is that this is a relatively light payload. because it's doing an RTLS landing. So not only do they not need Falcon Heavy, they barely need Falcon 9 because they're not even going to use all the performance of Falcon 9 because they're going to do an RTLS landing. Falcon Heavy, remember, has the same size payload fairing. They've talked about using an extended payload fairing, but never seen that. So the payload fairing for Falcon Heavy is the same size. So you can't fit any more stuff in there. So the only reason you would need Falcon Heavy is if you're trying to send a really heavy payload, or you're trying to send a payload like direct to geostationary orbit, or you're going to try to send it into some like, Earth escape orbit that's, maybe heliocentric or something like that and orbiting the Earth. That's where Falcon Heavy would really come into play, and we just don't do a lot of those. So they just don't, they don't need it. SpaceX said they can reuse 10 times without big changes. Will they attempt to reuse without big changes 11 times? No, well, according to their plan, after 10 times, they're going to go through major refurbishment. So they'll check the vehicle over, rebuild some stuff. I mean, that was the plan, is once they launch 10 times, then they will do some major refurbishment, replace things on it, on the actual booster itself, and try to make it look new again. So I don't know if they're going to actually make it look new, but they're going to do some major refurbishment after 10 launches. That is the plan that we know about right now. KDB, update, snacks and cold drinks, 2:30 a.m. I regret nothing. Katie, feel bad for you over in Australia. She's staying up until 3 o'clock in the morning just to wait for this rocket to launch. I hope for your sake that they recycle and try again today. We will stay for 5 hours. I hope not, because I have regular work to do. I do have a regular job that's beyond YouTube, and I have to go back to work and do some regular work. So at some point, I'm hoping I can do that. Can Falcon Heavy land on the moon? No. I mean, it could send a spacecraft to the moon. They've talked about doing that, maybe for like the Dragon XL or something like that. It could send, but Falcon Heavy itself would never actually go to the moon. It could send a spacecraft to the moon. Maybe that spacecraft could land on the moon. Maybe. But they're not developing anything like that right now. Maybe Falcon Heavy with some other company's space lander that they're developing, could that land on the... Maybe I don't know of any plans to do that, but that's possible.
If you're just joining us for the NROL-108 webcast, we are currently holding the countdown. During the countdown, pressure was slightly high in the upper stage liquid oxygen tank, which caused the abort. Now keep in mind, the purpose of the countdown is to help us catch these potential issues prior to flight. The vehicle and payload are in good health. Right now, the teams are evaluating whether or not we'll be able to recycle the launch attempt today. We should have a better idea of whether or not we'll be able to recycle today in the next 20 or 30 minutes. Again, if we are not able to attempt another launch today, we do have another launch opportunity tomorrow for the same time frame. Thank you for hanging in there with us, but this is the nature of the launch business, so sit back and stick with us.
Yep, so we still got an hour and a half left in the window here. They did tell us they were going to update us in about 20 minutes, and that was 20 minutes ago. And now he said that they'll update us in 20 minutes again. So it's the nature of the beast. If you're chasing rockets like this, that's what happens. There's a lot of waiting involved. It just means that I need more coffee. I'm gonna have to refill my coffee cup. Anyways, Bill says this is a recording. Well, I hate to break it to you, Bill. Bill 1, you're wrong. It's not a recording. Let's see. Are there people inside? No people inside. This is satellite launch. Well, I was answering. There was a question that I saw earlier that I want to scroll back and see. I can't remember what it. Oh, what are the names of the drone ship? That's what it was from Sean Brown. What are the name of the drone ship? Autonomous drone ships that recover the fairing. In fact, what are the name of all the drone ships? Well, the first thing I would say, Sean, is that the fairing recovery ships are not drone ships. There are people on the drone ship, the fairing recovery ships. They're not drone ships. The two fairing catch ships are Go Miss Tree and Go Miss Chief. Today, they're only using one of those. They're using Go Miss Tree. And Go Miss Chief, I think, is getting some upgrades. But Go Miss Tree is out at sea to try to recover one of the payload fairings. It looked like, they showed us earlier, it looked like it had the small net on, which means that they're not actually going to try to catch it. They're going to try to scoop it out of the water. Which is interesting. I'm not sure why they're not trying to catch it, but... they do have a second ship that's out there called Go Searcher, which is a support ship that has no net on it. That has to pick it up out of the water. That can't even attempt to catch. Both of those have people on them, though, so they're not autonomous. The only autonomous ships that have station-keeping thrusters are the autonomous spaceport drone ships, where the first stage booster lands on them. That is, of course, I Still Love You, and Just Read the Instructions, which are both on the East Coast now. Just Read the Instructions was on the West Coast, but now they're both on the East Coast. And someday, Elon keeps teasing this third drone ship called a Shortfall of Gravitas that we have not seen. He's been teasing that for almost 3 years now, and we haven't seen it. It would be pretty awesome to see, because potentially you could have a three booster drone ship landing with like Falcon Heavy. Side cores land on of course I Still Love You and Just Read the Instructions. Center core lands on a Shortfall of Gravitas. That would be awesome. We haven't seen that yet. He keeps teasing it, but we haven't gotten that far. So there we go. Lucas has a good question, though, about the fairing catcher. Lucas Miller says, are the fairing catchers operate... How are the fairing catchers... Let me try again, Lucas. How are the fairing catchers operated? Is it done by people or by computer? They haven't really told us 100% exactly how they operate. I imagine that there are computer systems on board. Now, whether the computer actually controls the steering or the computer just displays it to the ship's captain who is controlling the steering, I don't know the answer to that. Maybe somebody in chat knows the answer to it. But I know there are computers on board the ship that catches the fairing. There are also computers on board the fairing, and they both try to steer towards each other to get to a same common point. But we don't know if that steering is autonomous or just computer aided or guided or... So, I just saw that somebody subscribed, like Donuts Are Here. That was let's see, our Space Lobster telling me who subscribed. I don't know, I got a kick out of the Donuts Are Here one. It was all caps. It sounded like somebody was yelling at me, Donuts are here! Why are you yelling at me, bro? It's okay, I'll take your donuts. Are we sure this is a real satellite on board? Well, yes. I mean, I don't know. What else would it be? So, it's being propelled into space. It's a satellite. What's the satellite for? We don't know. We have no idea. It's top secret. A spy satellite, what's the actual purpose of it? I don't know. Ask the spies. They'll tell you. Maybe they'll let you know. They have no idea. They don't tell us. They don't tell us what it's for, so we don't know. Let's see, what vehicles are they developing at the moment? Well, SpaceX is developing Starship. A couple other launch companies, you got like Blue Origin is developing their New Glenn rocket. You've got United Launch Alliance developing their Vulcan rocket. There's a bunch of other rockets being developed that I can't think of off the top of my head, but those are probably the big ones that I think of right offhand. But SpaceX is developing Starship. That's their next generation vehicle. They did show a video of NRO where they said that they don't want to keep it more of a secret. Not sure I understand that comment. They did show a video. I wasn't able to listen to it because they were playing music, and I can't play their music over my stream. But so maybe they had some more information about the rocket in that video. We don't know. I suspect that it was kind of a very like high level, or very high level, low level. low-level overview. A quick synopsis, like, hey, we're launching stuff. Like, probably not a whole lot of detail in there. Maybe. I could be wrong. I wasn't able to listen to it, so. Let's see. Hey, Joe Gregory sent 1,000 Facebook stars. Thanks, Joe Gregory. Appreciate it. Thanks for your support there. I just realized, as we're sitting here talking, that I do not see any Facebook comments. Why do I not see any Facebook comments? I'm not seeing any Periscope comments either. Interesting. It says that my event is not live. Are we live on Facebook? We must be live because somebody sent me stars. Hold on.
Welcome back to the NROL-108 webcast. We are currently holding the countdown. We had an abort at T-minus 1 minute and 53 seconds and reset it to T-minus 45 minutes. During the countdown, pressure was slightly high in the upper stage liquid oxygen tanks, which caused the abort. We do these types of checks to make sure we catch any and all potential issues prior to flight. Both the vehicle and the payload are continuing to be in good health. The team right now is evaluating whether or not we'll be able to make another launch attempt today. We should have a better idea of that in the next 15 to 25 minutes. If we can't launch today, we do have another backup opportunity tomorrow in the same time frame. Again, thanks for sticking with us, for everyone that is tuned in right now, and we'll update you as soon as we can.
All right. Well, in the meantime, while we were listening into him, it looks like we are live on Facebook. So I'll go through some Facebook comments because I just realized as we were sitting here, once Joe Gregory sent over the Facebook stars, I was like, wait a minute. I haven't seen any Facebook comments. So just for anybody that's not aware, we simulcast this. It's on YouTube, which is the primary stream, but it's also on Facebook, Periscope, and Twitch as well. And usually, like, I have a whole panel here that's supposed to put all the chat together into one thing, so I just read it all as a single thing. Like, it puts all the chat from all the different places in one spot. But as I was sitting here, I was like, and we saw Joe Gregory's stars come across. I was like, well, wait a minute. Did Donuts just resubscribe again? Donuts are here? He's yelling at me again. Donuts are here! As I was sitting here, I was like, well, wait a minute. I don't think I've seen a single Facebook comment yet, which is true. Apparently my Facebook and my Periscope chat are not working. So if you're on Facebook and Periscope, I do have the Facebook chat up now. I don't have a way to pull up this Periscope chat separately, so I won't see your chat messages if you're on Periscope. Well, maybe we can try to fix that in the meantime, but let me go through some Facebook comments. Since we've been completely neglecting the Facebook people, we'll scroll through quickly. Let's see. Steve Robinson over on Facebook. Will Director Torrey make another appearance? Not today. He's sitting behind the camera. He's all right. Stay where you are. He's good. Winter theme is great. Just finished shoveling the driveway. Thanks. Glad we're all getting in the holiday spirit. Laura Johnson got 6 inches of snow at Cape Cod. Currently turning to rain. Ugh, that sounds awful. Hate when that happens. I'd much rather just have the snow. Like, give me 41 inches, 100 centimeters of snow. I'll take that. I don't want the rain. Especially snow mixed with rain. Ugh, that's awful. No snow in Minnesota for Bill. Let's see. Any more Starlinks for 2020? Nope, this is the last SpaceX launch for 2020 right here. Ron Sparkman, my buddy from Stardom. This is hashtag Flapperdoodles. Everybody liked that one. Let's see. How do you take your coffee? I just go straight black coffee. There's nothing in it. It's just, oh, ding. Straight black coffee for me. I put nothing in my coffee. Are we going to hear the space seal? Maybe. Maybe. If we're watching it, how top secret can it be? Remember, it's just the payload that's top secret. Everything we've seen Falcon 9 launch a million times, so there's no big deal to watching a Falcon 9 launch. It's just we can't see the payload itself. It's really hard to keep a rocket launch top secret, the launch itself secret. Hey, Dennis Martin sent 500 Facebook stars. Thank you, Dennis. Appreciate you supporting the channel there. Thanks very much. Let's see what else we missed over. I'm trying to show the Facebook people some love because we've been neglecting them because my comments are not working on Facebook, but I got them up now. Hopefully the second launch attempt works. Yeah, we will not see, Dean Turnbull says we're not going to see deployment, which is true. We will not see deployment today. They're not going to show us the satellite at all today. We won't even see fairing deployment because they're not going to show us any camera view of the actual deployment itself. What's the hold for? The hold is we had a high pressure reading in the second stage liquid oxygen tank. So we don't know if they're going to recycle again. They do have time to recycle. They've got another hour and 12 minutes to launch before the window ends. And they only need about 45 minutes to start refueling the rocket again. So they have just a little under half an hour to restart the count. So they could restart it. They got about half an hour to decide if they're going to restart or not. Well, I mean, they'll probably decide sooner than that, but the clock can start running anytime between now and about 30 minutes from now. Once we get about half an hour from now, if they haven't started the clock, it's not happening. All right. Well, there. I saw we got some love to our Facebook commenters. I really don't know why that. I wonder if there's any way for me to restart that. Just give me a second. We're gonna troubleshoot for just a second, just to see if there's anything I can do to fix it in real time like this. Oh, I think that did it. Ha. Somebody on Facebook comment.
We are currently in the middle of a hold on the countdown. What you're seeing on screen is a view of Falcon 9 sitting on pad 39A in Florida. During the countdown, we saw some slightly higher pressure readings from the second stage LOX tank, which caused the hold to the countdown. Now, keep in mind, we do try to catch these potential issues during the countdown prior to flight to make sure that we are absolutely spot on for a successful liftoff. The vehicle and payload are in good health. The teams right now are determining if we are able to recycle and make another launch attempt today. We should have a better idea of whether or not we'll be able to do this in the next 20 or 10 to 20 minutes. If we're unable to launch today, we do have another opportunity tomorrow, Friday, in the same time frame. Thanks for sticking with us, and I'll give you an update in a few more minutes.
He keeps. I'm gonna send Director Tori after him. He keeps telling us 20 minutes. You told us 20 minutes 20 minutes ago, and you told us 20 minutes 20 minutes before that. It's all right. That's how it goes with rocket launches. Hey, all right, Facebook peeps and Periscope people. All right, I'm getting your comments now. Comments are working again on Facebook and Periscope, so now I can see them all. They're all coming through on my single panel here. I don't know why it didn't start up at the beginning, but we're good. All fixed now. Back to normal. Tell us something we don't know. Yeah, we, there's a lot we don't know here, but I'm not sure I can tell you, because I don't know either. You missed a lot of them here now. I know, now I'm going to try to get, I had to go switch over to Facebook only, so now I'm trying to get to some of back to the YouTube comments. Tori, are you on Discord? I am on Discord. Although I might be, I think I'm invisible on Discord. Here, now I'm visible. I should have left that up so people could see that I was streaming, just in case I wasn't. All right, so let's see. I think none of my chat was working because I wasn't even getting the Discord. A lot of times I have our Patreon only Discord channels I see when we're streaming. But man, all my chat was, the only chat that was working was YouTube. But now everything is good to go. All right. Periscope is going away. They're not updating. Yeah, I did see that. The Periscope is going away, but they said that they were going to keep Twitter live. Which I don't know. I've always been very confused on, like, how you've got Twitter Live and Periscope, and they're like the same thing, but Periscope is going away, but Twitter Live is staying. I don't know what that's going to do for our live stream. I would like to continue live streaming also on Twitter somehow, whatever that is, so we'll see. How much snow do you have in your neck of the woods? We got about 6 inches, 15 centimeters of snow last night. Wondering how Starman's Tesla's doing in space. Anybody know? I mean, he's out there floating around. He's got no batteries, probably getting crushed from radiation and everything else. He's just flying around doing his thing. Why was there no scorching on the SN8 debris with all that massive fireball? Shouldn't there have been scorching or charring? It doesn't necessarily surprise me. I mean, it's a stainless steel vehicle, and it's probably, you know, as a quick fireball, I wouldn't expect it to be that crazy hot that it's going to like char stainless steel. I mean, I think if you look at some of the real detailed parts, you can see some scorch marks, but I wouldn't expect to see that on the actual like skin itself. Are we going to scrub or not? We don't know. We'll find out here, and as they keep telling us, we'll find out in 20 minutes. They've said that 3 times now. Do they throw the second stage away? Yes, it comes back and breaks up in the atmosphere. It's going to deorbit. And it deorbits. So it will, they do throw the second stage away. There's just no recovery on that. Are they scrubbed? We don't know yet. Maybe. We're going to find out soon. Right now, it's just a hold. It is not a scrub. Any problem with the rockets? Well, they did have a high pressure reading on the second stage liquid oxygen tank. So yeah, that's a problem with the rockets, but we're waiting to see if they can resolve it. We don't know if they're going to be able to resolve it or not. Weather is bad. Weather was not great, but weather is not the reason for the hold today. So the reason for the hold was actually a vehicle issue. High pressure reading, second stage liquid oxygen tank. Where is the launch site? Cape Canaveral, Florida. This is the big launch pad, 39A, right here, Kennedy Space Center. It's where Apollo launched from, Space Shuttle launched from, right here. One of their big launch pads at Kennedy Space Center, 39A. Falcon Heavy launches from there, Crew Dragon launches from there, regular Falcon 9 launches from there. This is the other big one, which is 39B. That's where NASA's SLS will launch from. Then you have the big crawlerway here that goes all the way back to the NASA's Vehicle Assembly Building right here, which looks a little bit crazy here on the 2D view. SpaceX does not use the Vehicle Assembly Building. They added their own horizontal integration facility here, which is what this building is. You can see the crawlerway has been cut off. They added a building in between because this is now SpaceX's leased launch pad for like the next 20 years. So, goes right in there. Oh, there you go. Tony Murphy said the Italian chef that we were talking about is Gino DeCampo. I couldn't remember what his last name was, but I knew it was Gino something. But yeah, he's the one that said, if my grandmother had wheels, she would have been a bike on national television in the UK during one of their morning shows or something like that, which I just love that quote. It's like an Italian proverb that basically means like, you know, it's in response to somebody that says like, well, what if, you know, what if it did, you know, or it, what he said it in regards to somebody was making fun of his recipe that was like, well, if it had this extra thing in it, then it would be like this. And he was like, well, yeah, but it doesn't. That's not what we're doing here. If my grandmother had wheels, she would have been a bike. Like, what are you talking about? It's not. It's one of my favorite quotes. Anyways, it's enough of that. So we're launching from Cape Canaveral here. RTLS landing, meaning it's going to return to the launch site, or close to the launch site, return to the ground-based landing zone, technically, but they call it an RTLS landing. So after separation, which is right here, it will do a boost back burn, turn it around, and loop back and come here and land not on a drone ship, but it's going to land at the ground-based LZ, which I can't show you because I'm struggling to zoom in here. Right here. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, No, you just see blue. Here it is. Right there. That's LZ1 landing pad. All right. Let's see. Skeletor over in our Patreon Discord. So Gino is well known over here in the UK. I know. I love Gino. I just couldn't remember his last name, but I do. I love Gino. He's a good guy. What's the cloud situation now? It's a good question. They haven't really said much about clouds anytime recently, but here's we'll refresh here, and here's our satellite view. Still a lot of clouds in the area. I suspect, what are we talking cloud coverage wise? Will they tell us? No, clouds. 100% cloud coverage, so no daylight to be found. 100% cloud coverage. The question is, we don't really know how thick they are. We just have to try to gather that based on this 2D map here, but a lot of cloud coverage in the area. Does Falcon 9 auto troubleshoot? I think most of the troubleshooting is going to be done by the engineers themselves. Falcon 9 will auto abort if there's a problem. And, you know, there are sensors on board that can tell you, like, specifically what the problem is, which, you know, lets you determine on whether or not you can continue. I imagine there's probably two things they're considering today. You know, one, they're trying to figure out why they got the high pressure reading in the second stage liquid oxygen tank. And two, they're probably also considering the weather. They're probably looking at it going like, all right, we could probably recycle. We have time to recycle, but what's the weather going to do? Are the clouds going to cooperate? Like, how is this going to... Are we going to really be able to do this? And that's the discussions they're probably having right now. It's both on the actual anomaly itself and the anomalous reading, I should say, and whether the weather's going to cooperate. So, John Paul says those are two different accounts about donuts. They're mine. Oh, all right. I thought you were just subscribed and then unsubscribed and resubscribed, just so I could see the donuts account again. It was funny. Now I'm hungry for donuts. How long can you talk about nothing? What's the world record? You would be surprised at how much I can talk. Maybe you're not surprised. Can we go to Uranus? Maybe you could probably send a spacecraft there. There's actually a window opening coming up soon that we might be able to send a spacecraft to Uranus that we could actually, if we there's no plans to right now, but if we decide, we could launch in 2031, which sounds like it's far away, but if you're going to launch in 2031, like, you need to start a satellite development program now. So we need to allocate funding. And then maybe we could send a spacecraft to study Uranus, because it would be pretty cool to send a spacecraft there, because Uranus is a weird planet. It's tilted very strangely on its axis, and it has a very weird magnetic field. Be a cool thing, a very cool thing to study. We've never really studied that in depth. And everybody laughing because I know the comment was trolling. I know that's exactly what it was for, but I figured we'd turn it into an educational standpoint, because I did a whole video about Uranus, and it's so funny. Like, can we go to Uranus? I mean, I know what you were trying to say. Like, it's an old joke. It's not very good trolling, to be honest. Like, come on, you can do better than that. We get tons of trolling on here. It's not even a good one. All right. Has SpaceX fully abandoned plans to make the Falcon second stage reusable? Yes. Yeah, they've abandoned those plans. They're not gonna do reuse on the second stage on Falcon 9 anymore. What does weather have to do with rockets? Well, you have to have good weather to launch rockets for a bunch of reasons. You've got your wind concerns. Remember, rockets have good strength vertically. They got a lot of strength this direction, but not a lot of strength this direction. So your wind speeds can...
Again,
Oh, hold on.
Checking in with everyone. This is the NROL-108 launch webcast. During the countdown, pressure was slightly higher in the upper stage liquid oxygen tank, which caused a hold to the countdown. Again, the purpose of the countdown is to help us catch these types of potential issues. Both Falcon 9 and the payload are in good health. The team is still evaluating whether or not we'll be able to recycle and attempt another launch today. Our window ends at 12 p.m. Eastern. So we should have more information in the next 10 to 15 minutes. If we can't launch today, we do have another opportunity tomorrow in the same time frame. Again, thanks for hanging in there with us, and sit back and we'll update you as soon as we...
Yeah, so basically at this point... Wow, I'm dropping frames all of a sudden. I don't know. All of a sudden, my upload speed just got crushed. Don't know what that's all about. I'm sure you probably got some buffering there. All of a sudden, my upload... something must have just happened with my network here, because all of a sudden, my upload speed just got absolutely crushed. But I think we're good now. We're back. Back to normal. Don't know why that was, but anyways. All right. Well, let's see. So where were we? What were we answering? Oh, the rocket. So why you have to worry about weather? Rockets don't have a lot of strength vertically, and if they get pushed off course, the engines have to gimbal to push it back, and you can get this kind of wobble maneuver like this. That's not good for rockets. You don't want the wobble. The rocket wobble, no good. No wobbles for rockets. So wind pushed it off course, the engines push it back on, and if it's strong wind, it'll keep doing this, and then you can get, that's when you get vehicle breakup. So that's the problem with winds. Clouds, thick clouds are usually a concern for like lightning activity. You can get rocket-induced lightning flying through thick clouds. You get a little bit of electrical activity that's not necessarily producing natural lightning, but if you fly a rocket through it, the exhaust can operate like a giant lightning rod, and you can get rocket-induced lightning. Look at Apollo 12 for that. It's exactly what happened on Apollo 12. It wasn't actually lightning. There wasn't actual lightning happening at launch for Apollo 12. They launched the rocket. It induced lightning. Rocket-induced lightning. Got struck by lightning twice. And they went, oh, hey, that's a problem. Screwed up all their computer systems, everything else. They were able to recover the mission and continue on, but it was a big problem. Something we learned on Apollo 12. What are some of the other weather restrictions? I'm blanking off the top of my head, but yeah, weather's a big problem. Oh, the big Challenger with the O-rings, super cold temperatures, just wasn't designed to launch in temperatures that cold, so obviously that was a problem. We don't really have that on Falcon 9 because there's no solid rocket boosters, but there's all kinds of things that weather plays into a factor here. John Rice says, wobble, go boom. Yeah, exactly. You get the wobble, you go boom. My moderators are telling me over in Discord not to feed the trolls. But it's so much fun sometimes. What's the worst issue any of the Falcon 9s have had on auto abort? The worst, well, it's hard to say really what the worst issue is, because if it's an abort, it's not really that bad. A lot of people look at aborts like, oh no, there's a problem. Like, yes, it's a problem, but aborts are good because they're detecting an issue. That's exactly what it's supposed to do. So it's hard to say like what's the worst problem. I mean, the worst problem would be not aborting when there's a problem. So I don't know. We've had, pressure sensor readings. We've had engines not igniting properly, which we saw on the GPS-3 mission just a few weeks back. That was a pretty concerning issue because that affected a lot of engines. They all of a sudden discovered an issue that affected a bunch of engines that was undiscovered for years. That they went like, oh man, this is a problem on all our engines. And they had to go back and look at them, including engines that were on crewed rocket launches. And so That was probably the biggest one, because that's usually when you have those sorts of issues where you're like, oh, this is a recurring problem that we have yet to detect.
On Canada.net, we are going to stand down on a recycle attempt today.
Standing down.
You're good to abort recycle launch at this time. We will be setting up for a 24-hour recycle.
Well, there it is. So 24-hour recycle. They just aborted it. And we're going to be at a scrub here now for today. Well, that's a shame. So, not happening today. They're going to go 24-hour recycle. And they will try again. They'll try again tomorrow. So we're not gonna see a launch today. Bummer. But that gives us another chance and another opportunity to show off some holiday decorations around the live stream here. So that's a bummer. Let's see. Did I miss any other? We'll grab a couple more comments before we end it here. I know we've been just reading comments forever because we were waiting for stuff. So. Anita in our moderator channel on Discord. Feeding the trolls is only fun for you. We're the ones that have to clean up the mess. Sorry, moderators. Because as soon as they started talking about trolling, I'm sure a bunch of people started trolling. The moderators are like, no, we got to clean up this mess.
If you've been following along, we had an abort on the countdown at the T-minus 1 minute and 53 second mark. At that time, sensors detected slightly high pressures in the upper stage liquid oxygen tanks, which caused the abort. Now, keep in mind, the purpose of the countdown is to help us catch potential issues prior to flight. There are 1,000 ways launch can go wrong and only one way it can go right. And given that, we are overly cautious on the ground, and if the team or vehicle sees anything that looks even slightly off, they'll stop the countdown. The vehicle and the payload are in good health. The team gave it their best effort to recycle within the remaining launch window, but it just wasn't in the cards for us today. Again, the vehicle and the payload are in good health, but this will end our launch attempt for today. The next earliest launch opportunity is tomorrow, Friday, December 18th at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. As always, thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you on the next attempt tomorrow.
Well, that's it. So they ended it, and we're not going to see a rocket launch today, but that's all right. It gives us one more opportunity to get together on whatever tomorrow is. Friday. I was going to say Saturday, but it's not Saturday yet. It's Friday. So hopefully the weather will be better, and we'll be back again tomorrow to try again another time. We'll see. Let's see. I grab a couple other questions before we completely end it here. So basically, in case you're late to the party here, we had an auto abort, 1 minute and 53 seconds left in the count. Auto abort due to high pressure sensor reading on the second stage liquid oxygen tank. They were waiting to try to investigate the issue, decide if they were going to recycle and try again. Obviously, they are not trying again. We don't know if they're not trying again because they need more time to investigate the issue. That's what I would suspect. But weather was also a bit of a concern today, so it could be a combination of both. But likely they just need a little more time to investigate the issue, make sure everything's okay, and they're just running out of time in the window. There's only 50 minutes left in the window. They need 45 minutes to fuel the rocket, so they're out of time for today. So. What's the status on SN9? I have not seen any repairs on SN9. So for those that don't know, Starship serial number 9 tipped over inside the vertical assembly bay. Tipped over and just leaned against the wall. It does have some damage, it looks like, on the both the fins at the aft and the aft and stern fins. The top and the bottom, what you said. They look like they have some damage on them. Don't know if there's any structural damages to the actual body of the rockets, but have not seen any repairs. Although they do have a road closure scheduled to what appears to be to move SN9 out to the launch pad on December, I think like 28th or something like that. So they might move it to the launch pad and then run repairs on the vehicle while it's at the launch pad. So look for that towards the end of the year. They might be rolling SN9 out to the launch pad and they'll fix it there. Heat Shield says be careful driving around today if you have. There's a ton of people that forgot how to drive in the snow and the slush. Yeah, fortunately, I don't have to go anywhere today, so I work from home, and I'm going back to work, and I'll be right here. Right here. Although I do have to go clear off the driveway. That's a whole nother issue. It's about 6 inches of snow, 15 centimeters for me, which is not too bad given that Binghamton, 2 hours south of me, got 41 inches or 105 centimeters. They're having a lot more problems than I am. Will you be live tomorrow? Yep, we'll be back again tomorrow for another try at this. You get to see the holiday decorations again. Gaff tape will fix it, says Tony Murphy over on Facebook. You're talking about SN9? Just tape it together? A little duct tape? Come to Florida at 70 degrees Fahrenheit here. I know that sounds great right about now. It's like, I wonder if I can, let me switch to this view. Let me see if I can show, I don't know if I can show this on camera, but I'm gonna try, give me a second. I want to see if I can show what it looks like outside right now where I am. Just for I always feel like people don't get a lot of, you don't have snow, so everywhere. So some people get confused. Maybe I won't show this just because it has some personal information, but it's very snowy out right now. I was considering maybe showing it, but some personal information, so I'm gonna hide that. I'll show it. Maybe I'll show it to our Patreon members in Discord. Well, here, I'll give you one more sales pitch before we wrap it up and end it. If you want to talk more in between now and tomorrow, consider joining our Discord. It's free. There's no cost. You can jump in, chat it up. Whole bunch of space geeks and fans like myself that are in there. We chatted up about all kinds of things: space, Arduino, Raspberry Pis, 3D printing. We got all kinds of stuff on there. Kerbal Space Program, space games. It's a fun time. Join us in there. It's free. There's no cost. And you can become part of our community. And if you don't, or if you want to take an extra step and consider more direct support of the channel, consider becoming a Patreon member or a YouTube channel member, and you get some exclusive behind the scenes content, maybe some live streams that we do just for Patreon and YouTube channel members that are in the top 2 tiers. So that's more direct support if you're into that sort of thing. If you're not, that's cool too. Just thanks for coming to watch and contribute to the chat. That's always great too. Helps move the show along, especially when you guys are asking questions and you're engaged and you're having fun and enjoying all this kind of stuff. So looks like is that a tweet? Somebody just put it in chat. Is that a tweet from SpaceX? Yep. So SpaceX just said, standing down from today's launch attempt to take a closer look at data, Falcon 9 and NROL-108 remain healthy. Teams are working towards a backup launch opportunity tomorrow with a 3-hour window opening at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that tells us that really weather played no factor today in the reason for the scrub, and it was all just that second stage high pressure reading in the liquid oxygen tank that caused the scrub for today. So that's what they're going to work through today, and hopefully we'll be back tomorrow for another attempt. All right, well, somebody said, what's the Discord channel name? If you type !Discord in the YouTube chat, our friendly Nightbot will give you a link to Discord, and you can just click on it and head right over there to chat with us. And I also I dropped a link in Facebook and on Twitch as well. So look for those links, and I guess I ought to throw, at least in Facebook, since those didn't happen automatically, over in Facebook and in Twitch, I'll throw a link to our Patreon information in case you want to consider supporting the channel more directly. Up to you. No big deal. No pressure. All right. Well, we had a fun time, even though we didn't get a launch today, but we'll be back tomorrow to try one more time. And hopefully we get a launch tomorrow, but gives me a chance to show our holiday decorations again. All right, everybody, I'm going to end it right here. I'll see some of you in Discord a little bit later today, but now I have to go back to work. All right, that's going to do it for me. Thanks, everybody, for joining. My name's Tori. This is Overlook Horizon, and I will see you hopefully tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Have a good day. Goodbye.